Good evening, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening, everyone. And thanks for joining us for this month's Professional Development Virtual Chapter meeting. My name is Matan Jungman. I'll be your host for today. I co-lead the Professional Development Chapter with the leader, Neil Hambley. And today we have David Klee for his presentation about the journey to being a consultant. David will tell us the real truth about how to be a consultant. I have just a few things for housekeeping today. Summit 2015 is just around the corner and the price is going to go up. So if you want to get in to pass Summit 2015, use the discount code on the screen. And we also have lined up the next webinar for next month. It will be by Edwin Sarmiento. It will be about dealing with the myth of work-life balance. So go ahead and go register on the Professional Development website. And with that, I think I will let you start your webinar, David. And let me pass you the control.
Excellent. Cool. I know I am really excited about seeing his presentation next month because that is something I touch on here, and it is a real challenge.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, and I'm really excited to hear your webinar for today. So without further ado, I will stop talking and let you do your magic.
Excellent. Cool. Can you guys see my screen okay?
Yes.
Outstanding. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for attending this. This is the journey to becoming or being a consultant. This is a collection of really experiences and challenges and realities and some of the pros and cons that we've faced over really about the last 8 years of transitioning from a full-time employee over to being a consultant for somebody else and then doing a little bit of contracting and then finally starting our own consultancy. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is David Klee. I'm a professional geek. I was lucky enough to be awarded both Microsoft MVP and VMware vExpert. If you have any questions at all after this, go ahead. My contact info is up on the screen there. And Matan, can we get you to mute your session? We've got some background noise there.
Sure.
Cool. Thank you. That's better. Cool. So yeah, I help out a lot with the SQL Pass virtual chapters. I do a lot with the virtualization, HADR, and performance chapters, and now with the professional development one. So first of all, let's get started. What is a consultant? The official definition straight out of Google is a person who provides expert advice professionally. But in IT, consulting really is more than giving advice. Good consultants have really mastered the art of recognizing the root causes of the problems and not just pointing out the symptoms and developing solutions to solve those problems and challenges. For me, my philosophy is pretty simple. Consultants really should truly care about the type of work that they're doing. It's what separates the good technologists from the great. One of my goals is to help put the expert and the credibility back into the consultant name because, let's face it, sometimes consultants get a bad rap. I'm fairly unique. We focus on the convergence of infrastructure and data, and I tend to focus on a lot of those to troubleshoot, to architect, things like that. To me personally, consulting is the art of making connections, not just with technology issues and symptoms and challenges, but with people as well. Consulting in IT really means making connections between people, solutions, personal networks, and understanding how to convince them that you're a valuable asset to the project and that it'll benefit them to pay you to help with the solution. So why become a consultant to begin with? Well, it's a really, really interesting, unique time in IT right now. Working as a consultant for someone else is one path that we're going to talk today, but working for other people continues to become really a less attractive choice for a number of reasons. At the same time, really entering and going out on your own really has never been easier because of technology, because of the state of the industry. A lot of folks have really decided to take that leap, and it's rewarding. It's really rewarding if you're the right person for it and if it's really suitable for you. Everybody's situation is a little bit different. For me, you have to have a niche skill set. You really need to be an expert on the things. It makes you marketable. It makes you valuable. To become a consultant, I get bored really easily. So the variety of the things that I see as a consultant are huge. When it comes to responsibility, you know, if you want more responsibility in your job, becoming a consultant is one way to get a lot of responsibility really quick. If you enjoy continuous learning, really fast that you probably wouldn't have seen as quickly in a regular position. It's a great way to grow the skill set, grow the toolbox and the things that you can do well. The results are, you know, just rapid advancement in whatever industry you're in, and sometimes it's a great way to move upwards. Okay, so definitions here, it's always interesting. Start with one question. Why do you want to become a consultant? And you have to be really, really honest with yourself. And then ask yourself, what is your definition of success as a consultant? For everybody, these answers are completely different. Now, only when you have multiple good reasons can you really go into how and when. And that's a now, not 5 years in, is a great time to get the family on board and understand what their definition of success is as well. Because trust me, what you want and what your family needs could be two completely different things, and having everybody on board with that vision is an absolute requirement up front, or else you run into some pretty interesting challenges down the road. To get into consulting, you need to know what the definition of your personal success goals really are. And of course, there's no right answers to any of this. It's all, you know, completely up to you. You know, could your definition of success be to have more flexibility and, you know, time to spend with families on, you know, vacations over the year? Somebody else's definition could be $1 million a year in gross revenue, or just working half the month and spending the other half of the month on professional development. Definition of success will help you along the right path, as long as, you know, it's something to revisit whenever things get difficult. And if you're not honest with yourself now, it will come back and bite you. Just remember, it does take a lot more than just the desire to become a consultant to succeed. It takes an incredible amount of effort and energy. Now, for me, my personal definition, I want to be the best geek that I can be. I really do enjoy the convergence of infrastructure and data and its impact on business, and I want to be the best in that area that I can possibly be. Now, after you understand why you want to become a consultant, there are a lot of things that you should ask yourself, you know, just to kind of help flesh out what sort of a path that might best fit you. So first of all, what do you enjoy doing today at your day job? You know, is this something you want to do more of as a consultant, or are you looking to get out and you want to do something a little bit different, or maybe something you've done in your past? Are you unhappy at all about your current job? And if so, what are the things that you're unhappy with? And are you looking to get out of that and become a consultant just to escape those challenges, or because you really want to go and learn more about these things? So consulting can be extremely fast-paced, and it is always changing. Is that in line with your personality or not? How are your interpersonal skills and communication abilities? For me, talking with others, and this includes people at all different layers of an organization, it's critical, as is your writing skills, because, you know, documentation as a consultant is a lot more important. So are you comfortable with potentially less job security than you have as a full-time employee? And if so, you know, if you're not too comfortable with that, going out on your own may not be the right thing to do. You know, what type of a person are you? Are you extroverted or introverted? Consulting really does force you to get outside of your comfort zone pretty regularly. You know, you need to be comfortable with the fact that you may or may not be able to handle that pretty well. So what niche or specialty do you fill? Do you have any unique skills or expertise that is really in demand or hard to find? It helps you stand out as a consultant, which is a great way to generate more leads for work. What is your work style like? Are you more of a work by yourself to get the project done kind of person, or are you more of a delegator or group project kind of person? Realizing and recognizing that up front is a great way to help you feel and determine what sort of path makes the best fit for your personality. One of the bigger questions is, where do you see your career evolving into? Where do you want to be in 10 or 20 years? Do you want more or less travel? Do you want more or less responsibility? Do you want bigger projects, bigger names, emerging technologies, or do you want to maintain all the stuff that's in place that the business really depends on right now? How comfortable is your family with the level of risk on your decision? I cannot stress that enough. And then finally, do you have a truly rock-solid safety net, both financially and emotionally? Do you have any alternative paths if your goals of being a consultant just don't work out, or if you find out it's not the right? What's your definition of success? So in moving into consultancy, every bit of experience from your background really does matter. So for me, I got my first computer when I was 5. I basically lived at the library for the next couple of years. I taught myself BASIC when I was, I think, 7 or 8. In middle school, I ended up building and repairing computers by riding my bikes to people in the neighborhood's homes. It was a great way to make some extra cash, and it beat bagging groceries or a lot of the normal jobs that kids get. When I was in high school, I moved into a help desk role at a local, IT company, and taught a lot, learned how to fix things. It was a great experience. From there, I took a job as a system administrator for a small company, and I learned a lot of different things about what it takes to manage computers in a business, and it's a lot different from just a help desk. So when I got out of college, I moved into a software development role because you get a degree in computer science. That's generally what people kind of lend to, and I realized that I really am awful as a software developer. But that said, I learned a lot there, and a lot of the things that I learned still directly apply to what I do day in and day out today. From there, I took a role where I was a system administrator and an accidental DBA. I was forced to maintain some SQL servers, and guess what? I actually really enjoyed it and decided to start running with that. So I ended up doing a whole lot of system integration work with databases. I merged a bunch of different nonprofits into one big consistent management system. Just had a lot of fun with it and really enjoyed it. From there, I kind of became the all-around tech geek at a smaller firm. So I was a DBA, I was a database developer, I was a software developer, and I was a system administrator, and learned how to manage a lot of stuff all at once. From there, I decided it was the right time for me to go become a consultant at a local consulting group. Got a lot of great experience, learned a lot of really cool things, was in the right place at the right time to really help set the stage for the next venture, which was to follow a dream and start a new consulting group. And here we are today. Now, paths, not everybody follows the same path. Everybody's story is unique. So what is right for you? There's a lot of different ways to get into consulting. You can either go become a consultant for an established group, or you may be interested in getting started with contract work. It's a great way to do it. Eventually, maybe you might be interested in actually starting a consulting group, and there's a couple different ways there with a lifestyle business, or starting out from day one to build a larger scalable business. The path is completely up to you. Now, risk levels, any of this stuff is risky, but as you get closer to starting your own business, the risk goes up. The one challenge is, or working as a consultant for somebody else. Some folks think it's risk-free. Well, it's certainly less risky than starting your own business, but it still has some inherent risk. You're at the mercy of that group to find projects for you, and sometimes if they can't find work for you for some stretch of time because of things like, the recession, or projects just aren't out because of the holidays, or summer vacation, they might actually end your job just because they can't find projects for you. So what is the right path? Well, I'm going to talk through all of these and really give a lot of the realities and the pros and cons with them. So first of all, let's get started with consulting for somebody else. Well, consulting for somebody else is solid. When you take the role consulting for an established business, it is most certainly less risky than the other paths. Aside from the fact that the business has already taken the risk to get started, and if they can afford to hire you, they're doing pretty well. There's a steady salary in it for you, and hopefully some benefits. You don't have to take the financial hit of establishing a business entity, dealing with legal, dealing with marketing, bookkeeping, all that stuff. You do get paid time off, hopefully. And hopefully with that consulting group, you can get some absolutely amazing experience that you can use anywhere. And hopefully at that company, you've got some great mentors that can really help guide you, hopefully gently, into the consulting arena, because it is way different, and help train you to become successful. It's in their best interest to do so, and you gain the benefits of getting this quick jump starter. Now, consulting really is intense. You have to wear your game face and be alert and ready to tackle pretty much anything all the time. Even if things like your system of migration from the night before took all night. Now, are you good at interviewing? This sounds kind of weird, but you will be constantly interviewing with prospective clients and customers to make sure that you're the best fit for a potential project, and to help sell your services to help get that project. It's different, and it's really eye-opening, and believe me, you get real good at interviewing real fast. Working for somebody else like this, it's also kind of tough to choose your projects. If the focus of the company is something that's right up your alley, great. But if a customer asks you, hey, by the way, can you do this as well? It may not be something that you really enjoy, but if you've got a background in it, chances are you're going to get that project. For example, I have had to do a lot of Microsoft Exchange management here and there over the years. I didn't really like it back in the old days, and I had a number of sleepless nights managing some pretty cranky Exchange environments, but ended up needing to do it because other folks knew I could do it, and it was needed to get the job done. There is the potential for some high travel, long nights, long weeks. It comes with any job, but some consultants have to travel a lot, and that's tough. You need to ask yourself, are you comfortable with that amount of travel? I know some guys that are on the road Sunday to Thursday every single week, and some of them are cut out for it, and some of them you give them a year or two, and there's just no way they can sustain it. It's tough. One of the good things about consulting for somebody else, one of the challenging things, is that you have to learn how to learn very quickly. New languages, new concepts, new technologies, even things like, to win a bid on a project. All of a sudden, somebody will come up to you and say, hey, I need you to learn this technology and go pass the certification exam by next Monday so we can get this project. That's tough. You got to be adaptable and flexible. So if you think one particular solution really is the best way to do something, but the client demands that you go a different direction for any number of reasons, you got to suck it up and go that route. So flexibility and adaptability, to new situations and environments and just ever-changing business and project demands, absolute must. There's a good chance you're going to be taken out of your comfort zone, and you just have to make peace with that. So for me, balance is one of the harder things to control. So late nights, weekends, lots of potential travel, high stress situations, it's all part of the job. What you need is to have that employer make sure that you have a decent amount of balance so you can relax here and there and not burn out. Now, with any job, there's some misconceptions. Travel is not glamorous. Not all travel, not all consultants travel frequently, but it is a reality for a lot of us, and it's tough. Occasionally you get to travel to some really cool places. It's like, yeah, I've had projects in South Florida in the middle of the winter, and it's pretty neat places, but you may not actually get the time to experience that location. So the reality is that you basically see the inside of an airplane, airport, hotel room, and then an office building, and then you do it in reverse when you go home. And that's about it. Another common experience, not just a misconception, is that consultants have a bad rep because, some of them just, the business is designed to take your money and then underdeliver, and then you have to come back to them for more. We've all seen Office Space. There's a lot of pseudo-experts out there, or folks that don't listen and solve the root problem. Stereotypes are pretty much grounded in reality. So it is a stigma, it's a reality, and it's hard to change. Technically smart does not necessarily make for a great consultant. Interpersonal communication and the ability to change your delivery based on the person that you're communicating with really is your greatest asset. You have to be able to sell yourself and your ability to successfully complete a project to whoever interviews you before that project starts and during that project. Being technically gifted usually doesn't make for a great consultant. You've got to be able to work with everybody. You have to be able to technically communicate, both verbally and in writing, how to do something, why to do something, what the business impact is of that. And it's pretty interesting, pretty fast. Now, getting started with consulting for somebody else is an interesting challenge. Before you do anything with that, Brent Ozar has a great list of questions that you really do need to ask before you take any kind of consulting job. These are the questions that will put your interviewers basically on alert that you know what you're getting into. So it's awesome. The biggest thing is, what skills do you all stand out? What makes you marketable for them to take the risk on you as a new consultant? Now, for those of you that are interested, start getting involved with the SQL family. All the folks that do, that run the businesses, that hire the folks that do the consulting in this industry. We're all really, really open and willing to talk and share and mentor, and some of them are even in positions where they can start to hire. So start to get to know them. There's a lot of great folks out there to get to know with this stuff. Now, contracting, it's a little bit different than consulting. It's basically longer-term projects that have a fixed end date. Other than that, you potentially work normal hours just like a full-time employee. There is relatively low risk if you've got some solid technical skills. It's pretty lucrative, and it's generally pretty flexible in terms of the projects and roles that you can play. The hours, like I said, are pretty similar to that of a full-time employee. There's lots of recruiting firms that can be found in any sizable town, and they're almost always looking to fill project roles, especially in the economy today where things are doing pretty well. It's a great way to gain work experience and grow your skills. Now, there's always realities with all of this. It's not PG perfect. The contracts that you may land are not necessarily back-to-back, so you do need some financial padding between the projects. It may be a month or sometimes 2 or 3 months before your next big project, so you got to have that padding. Now, again, it's a great way to take some time off, and it's somewhat predictable. And you can dictate if you take time off between projects as well, which is pretty good. One of the challenges, you are now probably responsible for things such as benefits and paying your own taxes. So whatever money you make, it takes a pretty hefty chunk off the top right there. You now need to worry about contracts and your freedoms and limitations as a result of this. Things like non-competes and non-solicitation clauses can actually prevent you from working for customers that may actually end up coming to you, they want your work. As a contractor, you're generally a little more dispensable on projects than full-time employees. If a project is not going well, or the company itself may not be doing well, they may actually terminate or suspend projects, and it can happen on really short notice. So it'll leave you out of a job, and then you're left, looking for another contract. You have to now maintain demand, or maintain this in-demand skills. Keep up with the times, keep up with the new emerging technologies, so that you stay marketable and current. Because if you don't, other people will. Period. You have to stay in front of it. Realistically, though, if you know your stuff and the economy stays pretty solid like it is today, your short-term outlook with contracts is pretty good. The job security of the industry today is pretty good, and when one contract ends, there's a good chance you're going to find another one pretty quickly by going through any number of recruitment agencies nearby. Just remember, it just may not directly follow the other one, so keep that padding in mind. Now, misconceptions with contract work, just like everything else, work doesn't just come to you. You have to work on the interview. You have to push the recruiting agents to find you, suitable and sustainable work. You may also need to be part of the contract that the recruiter actually uses with their clients, because it might actually contain contract clauses that either you don't like or might actually hurt you if something goes wrong. Again, there's the always paying taxes and, challenges with things like business insurance, health care for you and your family. It's easier than it used to be, but the prices are still really high and sometimes prohibitive on other things in life. This is where the lawyer comes in. You do need to get a good lawyer. So discuss with the lawyer the need for adding a liability policy for your employment, because the nature of your work might just put you in jeopardy. For example, a typo could take down a database, and that's not good. I know somebody else who was doing some work, did work for one of the police department's in-car video systems, and he really enjoyed it. It was a good job, but after a while, they ended up cutting some of the funding, and when he struggled to maintain some of these systems, he couldn't get the parts, and he needed to keep them running. After a while, he found out that if a video system failed in a situation where they needed it, he might be personally liable for the failure of that system as a part of his job. And based on that and their continued refusals to deal with adequate funding, he had to quit because of the fear of actually having something go wrong on the job and it hurting him personally. Stuck? Consulting. So what if you actually want to be able to call your own shots? Well, there's two ways to do it, basically. One is to build a lifestyle consulting business, which is a great way to get started. Or if you're really ambitious and a little crazy, start out to build a scalable business. So we're going to talk about both. So if you're interested in lifestyle consulting, you wear a number of hats now. You are the project manager, you're the marketer, you're the strategist, you're the bookkeeper, you're the travel agent, you're the one that implements the solutions, and you're the one that architects them, and sometimes you're the janitor to clean up the messes around all of this. The consulting group that you start, either by going it alone or you and a few colleagues teaming up, you're in for a shock. You should also think about forming a legal entity at this point. So starting a business with an S-Corp or LLC are just two options for getting started with it. It's not that hard to get started with the business, but do talk to a lawyer about your options and where to go with it rather than picking up some legal package from some canned website. The liabilities in IT are definitely higher than other business types, so you need to be aware of the impact of your choices during that step, because it deals with hiring, it deals with business formation and liability, it deals with the kind of insurance you need. It does add up. Now, with this kind of consulting, be prepared for shorter-term projects, and as a result, you are going to have to work to find more work more frequently. And as a result, because of that time and overhead of managing finding work, the rates need to be higher to balance that trade-off. So to stand out and to be distinct, you're going to need to be more specialized in the type of tasks that you can perform, or at least have some really good technical skills that are more in demand have more in-demand technologies in the industry. Now, some realities here. Everything about consulting and contracting directly applies, except now you have about 200 more things to worry about. Branding is one of the hardest challenges out there. You have to constantly have a conscious effort to brand everything that you do out there so that people start to remember you as one of the industry experts or voices on that topic. And that way, when they call up or when they have this problem in the field, they might actually remember that you talked about this somewhere, to SQL Saturday or on a webinar, or on a blog, something like that. It helps with the balance of constantly trying to find new and repeat business. The overhead of going this route is pretty high. There's a lot of time-consuming tasks that are kind of a shock to people just getting into it. Things like bookkeeping, dealing with contracts, marketing, keeping up with social media. All of this adds up into tasks that take you away from billing, which is how you pay the bills. But they're absolutely vital to maintaining and scaling and just keeping the business stable. So you're kind of in a catch-22. One of the fun things and great things that I've got, I would not be able to do our business the way we're doing it today if it weren't for my really wonderful and outstanding wife. She tackles so many of these behind-the-scenes things so that I can remain focused on maintaining and growing that business. And she does a great job helping me there. One of the realities is contracts, focus. It's tough. One of the best things that I've got is focus. On a project now, with the normal interruptions of a traditional office environment, it's really wonderful when I can sit and get a lot more done in the same window of time because I can turn off email, turn off the phone, sit back and work and just blitz through a lot of these tasks. Now, one of the challenges here is that with lifestyle consulting, you absolutely must have a really good lawyer. And a lawyer that is not just good or, Harvard, MBA sort of thing, but you need a lawyer that's willing to learn what you do. First of all, the lawyer, it's about getting paid, but it goes way beyond that. Everything you do is now completely independent, or it's interconnected, and you have to think of it that way. So as you start out, when the contracts with large negotiations, you don't necessarily have a lot of weight to go and negotiate the things that you need in your contract, such as indemnification or security requirements, things like that. You have to give and take, and even as you grow, but even more so when you're just starting out, a lot of times these companies will require that you use their paperwork, or that you get your paperwork back with just basically a huge red X in it. It gets really tricky to find ways to best safeguard you from any risk, but running a business is always about calculated risk. So when you put all this together, it does matter. It helps your liability. Sometimes your business insurance really means you have to put certain clauses in there. For example, an omitted clause in a contract could potentially mean you don't get paid on time, or, and we've seen this before with other folks, that the business insurance just flat out might not cover you if something were to go wrong because of the language in the contract. So a strong but fair contract and someone in your corner to help you really decipher the ugliness that legalese really is today is absolutely mandatory to help you get through these issues before they start. Helps you get paid on time, and it really helps you through the contract negotiations with your clients' lawyers, because I guarantee you they're going to have the lawyers, and if you don't, you're at an immediate disadvantage. So one of the other challenges is once things get rolling, getting used to the amount of non-billable administrative work in a business. It's one of the toughest things to think about. It's one of the hardest things to really handle. All of those tasks that I talked about earlier, they stack up and they impact the business that is needed to building and maintaining the business. Finances are always interesting too, and this is why a lot of folks have an independent bookkeeper to do a lot of the work for them. But just remember, every one of these expenses adds up. You're at the mercy of the client to get paid on time. You don't necessarily know, when the next project will or won't come in. You do need the extra padding for the time between projects, time for vacation, or things like revenue lost while you're out at conferences or traveling for client projects. And finally, as a lifestyle consultant, what is your exit plan? Because chances are you're not going to be doing this until you die. You need retirement savings. What if you just get tired of it and want to go do something else? How are you going to get out of it? You need that exit plan. Now, there's balance, and this is exactly what Edwin Sarmiento next month is actually going to talk about right here, so stay tuned. For me, personally, the work-life balance it's one of the hardest things that I struggle with. And I've struggled with this for a long time. And now, it's tougher. I'm aware of it. I do my best to work through it. But it's something that's pretty hard for me to address. I have to force myself to take time to get off the computer and actually go do something else. So it's something to be aware of. And again, Edwin will talk more about that next month. Now, it sounds all doom and gloom, but it's not. There's a lot of pros to being your own boss. One, you're almost your own boss. So your client, the people that actually pay the bills and dictate the parameters that your projects operate under, they're your bosses. But you have the ability to say no and walk away from potential projects if you know the risk is too high, or if you know the client is, a little unsteady in what they need. That fact alone is really empowering. You can also part ways with a client. Some people call it fire. If you really need to, if things just aren't working the way you want, or if the demands are just way different than what you're willing to accommodate. You can also pick your own direction. So my direction for my company, HeraFlux Technologies, is to continue to pursue really risk management and system convergence between infrastructure and data. And so I can continue to grow in that direction, and I can pick and choose the technologies that I want to learn and explore and begin to offer as services that our company offers. And then I also joke, you can pick your own hours that you work. Yeah, you pick which 16 hours a day you want to work. But really, if you're not working on the business, you're thinking about the business. You are one and the same. And that's why I addressed earlier that you have to make sure that your family is on board with the things that you're looking to do. If not, there's going to be issues, though. Now that said, the flexibility is great. So some weeks I choose to work all weekend on a project so that I can go shopping or get out of the house on a Tuesday afternoon when nobody's out doing those things. It gives me more peace when I'm out, less traffic, things like that. And finally, as a consultant, one of the best things is that you don't have to become part of any office politics that might be hiding at the clients. I'm not going to say you're immune to it, but I find that when I'm directly impacted by politics far less frequently than I was when I was a full-time employee. It's a good spot to be in, especially for me when those sort of things get to me a little more than some people. Now, requirements to get into the consulting. It's pretty steep. You do need a significant amount of financial padding. And please, please, please check with your current employment agreement to make sure that it's okay to have those relationships ahead of time. Because a lot of times employers don't really like it when you leave. And these agreements can actually prevent you from doing work in some places. You got to have a strong support system. Spouse, family member, and friends, they're all absolutely necessary. They may not know what you're going through with starting the business, but having somebody to talk to is really important. You've got to have great mentors as well, and this is where the SQL family really comes into handy. There are some absolute great people in this field that if I have a question, I can pick up the phone and call, and they're really happy to help and answer and walk me through anything that I need, and it's been absolutely essential to where we're at so far. Now, business alliances are really important as well. So I don't want to say partnerships, but I use the phrase alliances because partnerships to me can be either one-sided or they can hold you back if things don't go right. The alliances, you work with them to help generate mutual business where everybody wins. Their customers are happy, your customers are happy, and now you're able to start offering more services than what you yourself can offer. as long as you trust these different alliances to be able to fulfill it at the standards that you've set. And again, I stress, get the good lawyer. Again, no contract can prevent you from anything going bad, but those solid contracts are absolutely critical. You do need a take charge kind of personality. You need somebody, you need people on your group that can make decisions quickly on a pretty solid basis and consistently move forward with it. Finally, focus on your strengths and outsource the rest. And the Gallup Strengths Finder is a great way to help really identify and hone in on those strengths. Focus on the stuff that you do best. For example, we've got a number of folks around legal and contracts and some bookkeeping work that when we have questions, we don't know how to do something, we just pick up the phone and call. Again, their hourly rate directly applies, but it's there. Now, one of the more challenging things and one of the least understood items. Yeah,
David?
Can you hear me?
Sorry for interrupting. Some of the attendees asked us. You had a small connection glitch when you talked about financial padding during startup, and he asked if you can restate that.
Yeah, so it's one of those common fallacies. If you're starting the business, what is the strategy for getting work? Now, contract work, you can generally land that with a contract, but you still need that money in the bank before you land that first contract to act as your padding. If you're consulting, you probably need even more because the money that comes in may be from shorter-term projects, and it may not be enough to pay the initial bills of, getting started with the legal entity, finding a lawyer and getting all of your contracts created, things like having a website developed, dealing with phones and laptops and infrastructure like that. And it does add up. It is more significant than most people realize to get started with the business and get that framework going so that you can start to really advertise and take in work. Cool. Did that answer the question there?
I hope so, but we did hear you well this time, so thank you.
Okay, cool. Okay, so one of the challenging things is how to define the rates as a consultant. Your startup costs are always going to be higher than you expect. Time off is even harder. So, if you take time off, you're not billing during those windows. You're not spending that time looking for work, which is going to hurt the next month's receivables. So you have to figure out how to adjust and calculate for these time off windows that you really do need to take. So second, how in demand are your services? How valuable is it in the marketplace? Now, one of the things that I've got here is a rate calculator to really help you go in and determine an approximate rate to charge. So I've got a sample one right here that I'm going to walk you through. And again, I'd be happy to send this over to anybody that wants a copy of it. So what I've got is we're just going to pick just a random number, 80,000 for a target income goal gross at the end of the year. You need to determine a realistic work week for you. So I'm just going to put in 50. The number of items that come up in terms of your work week, things like business development, marketing, handling contracts, dealing with, just putting expenses back into the, QuickBooks or whatever package you use, invoicing and money collections, general administrative time to deal with all these things. Keep track of up front and kind of get an idea of what it would take. There's annual non-billable time. So if you want to take 4 weeks off a year, right there. There's additional time for things like conferences or training classes. And what this does is this gives you an average work week billable. It also gives you the total number of hours in a work week, and that actually calculates the annual billable hours. Now, operations, these are all the overhead components that end up costing you a lot of money. You've got business insurance, you've got the cost of an internet connection to your house, you've got office and computer equipment, laptop, cell phone, things like that, legal expenses for getting rolling and helping with the contract negotiation. Cell phone cost or, voice over IP cost for a landline, something like that's pretty high. You've got general other expenses for things like toner cartridges, printer paper, any of the normal routine stuff. You've got professional services, which can be bookkeeping, marketing advice, things like that. You've got website hosting and development fees. Anything that comes out of your pocket should go on here. So non-billable travel, I like to go to a lot of SQL Saturdays because I enjoy it. So there's travel for that. There's any cost with marketing and pre-sales efforts. There's always meals and conferences that come along with it because I don't know about you all, but it's my goal. I will be at the PASS Summit every year no matter what. So you have to figure out the cost associated with that. There's personal benefits in there. So the cost for health insurance at the end of the year. There's savings and retirement that you put in. Now you plug all of this in, and this gives you an average billable rate. It gives you a yearly gross income, subtract your expenses, enter in your tax rate, and now your yearly income is after tax back where you thought it was going to be. So if you decide to take a pay raise, you can calculate a 10% pay rate gives you this, and that would give you, so it's a $7.50 an hour more, gets you another almost 10 grand a year. Now, one of the biggest challenges here is there's an assumption built into these numbers that every hour during that 50-hour work week that you're not spent doing billable work, or that you're not spent doing admin here, is going to be time that you can bill to a customer. And that's not necessarily an accurate assessment. What you've got now is of that billable time, you now have anticipated billable utilization. So off for billing, you can now say, with this scenario, 60% of my time that I think I can bill, I'll actually be billing. And what this does is this recalculates your billable rate to say, hey, in order for me to make that dollar amount goal at the end of the year, that's what I actually need to charge based on this assumption. And that's something that a lot of folks miss. And it's the overhead, it's the time, it's the nonlinear flow of the work coming in. So taking into consideration there that average utilization, that does add up. And what this does is, if you're a full-time employee and you've got, a salary, then everything is really linear. It's nice and clean. Occasionally you might get a bonus or, a small pay raise, and it's pretty steady, it's pretty linear, very predictable. As a full-time consultant for somebody else, there is a chance that the place that you're working for will give you the salary and the bonuses like that. Or some consultancies actually have billable time and non-billable time. They call it bench time. So if you don't have bench time, or if you're on bench time, you actually go to a lower hourly rate to them. And it's at their mercy to find you more work. So it's not necessarily as linear. And I may get a bump at the end of a project for doing well, things like that. But it's not necessarily quite as predictable as before. Now, being a contractor, again, pretty steady. You've got that gap between the two projects that you have to accommodate for, but it's fairly predictable. As a consultant, it can be all over the place. So this is where some of that financial padding really comes into play. So to save, when you get the money coming in, to use it as a buffer when you have a quiet month, things like the holidays, summer vacations. All these things really add up depending on the week, the week of the year. Now, the last thing that I'm going to talk about here is starting that scalable consulting group. So one, are you nuts? We are. You're not alone. This is our goal with the company that we started a year and a half ago. If you want to build a consult,
we have 10 minutes left.
Yep.
To the webinar, and we also have a few questions in the chat room.
Yeah. If you want to build a consulting group from scratch, every single thing that you do becomes a process. The processes become how you do things as well as why you do things. Your goal now is to focus on the sales pipeline and delivery. You need to be as efficient just on the bill, bill, bill mentality, because that kind of shows through to the clients. You have to be efficient and still thorough. Realities of starting your own scalable business, it's an emotional roller coaster. As the business evolves, all this continues to change. There is a lot of overhead, so there's even more overhead than what you had with the lifestyle consulting. The work week is longer, the overhead is greater, but in some cases the reward is greater as well. One of the biggest things for us is surround yourself with the mentors that have more experience with you. There's a lot of folks out there that are really, really willing to share and help, but take everybody's advice with a grain of salt, because everybody's got their own agenda, everybody's got their own personal experiences, and it's not a bad thing, but their advice may not directly apply. For us, our goal is one of our goals is to become the mentor that we wish we had. We've got a number of strategic alliances, and we run very lean as a business. We don't need a fancy office space. Don't drive flashy cars. All these things. We keep our overhead down, and that way we keep our costs down to our customers. Mistakes happen. Don't get caught up with them. Just move forward. Don't look back, and correct as you go, because nothing's perfect. So for you, if any of this sounds appealing, think about getting into consulting in some manner. It's not for everyone, but for me, it's a dream job, and I don't think I'm ever going to return from the journey. I really thoroughly enjoy it. You just have to make sure that all the aspects of getting into it are at least understood, and as life changes, that you have a backup plan in case it doesn't go the way you want. Cool. So let's hit some of those questions now.
So first, thanks for the great webinar, David. Very eye-opening and closing some loose edges. So we'll start with the questions. First one is about the slide deck. Will the guys be able to get it after the webinar?
Yeah, so hopefully we've recorded this, and I will have the slide deck. I'll send it over to you guys to post.
Great, sounds great, and it will be up on the archive and the blog on the website of the Past Professional Development website. Next question. Someone says, I'm an employee and have a question about performance reviews. I've never been able to score very well on these, even when I have a good job done professionally. So what am I missing here?
Oh boy, that's a really good question. It could be organizational. They could be, good is always relative. There are some places where on a scale of 1 to 5, 3 is considered perfectly acceptable, where 4 is outstanding and 5 is virtually unattainable. It could be their standards. It could be that they're looking for something that they haven't conveyed to you that might be missing from what they're expecting. You just may not be aware of what they're looking for because they're not really obvious with it. So I'd point blank ask them. Just say, what do I need to do to score higher on that review? What am I missing? What do I need to do to learn more to get there? And see what they say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very smart, awesome. Thank you. Next question. The company I work for don't have a technical training program, so how do I go about keeping up with skills up to date? Also, is it a good idea to be with this company for a long time?
Well, I can't say if it's a good idea to be with the company for a long time or not, because it all depends on what they're doing with technology and where your interests line up. I can say that if they're not going to invest in you in training, you do need to take it on yourself to do it. For me, I've never expected an employer to keep up with training for me, and this is why I've got a sizable home lab. This is why I spend a good amount of time every week, reading blogs, reading books, trying to keep up with this stuff, because it's your career, it's their job, but it's your job to maintain and improve your career. Mm-hmm. So I would continue to work to keep up with it on your own. And if the company sees you doing this on your own, maybe that's some initiative for them to try to essentially keep you happy at the job by sending you to some training.
Great. Next question. Someone asks about lawyers. Where can he find good lawyers?
Oh. To be honest, it's an area that we've struggled with as well.
Oh, okay.
Basically you have to put together a list of interview questions for the lawyer and essentially interview the lawyer to see if they're the kind of lawyer that you need for your business. You need somebody that is at least technically inclined, that understands and listens to your needs, and that is willing to learn your business. So interview the lawyer very, very seriously and make sure that they're the right one for you.
Here's a good one. How to handle stress situations, whether to keep calm or express yourself freely.
Well, that's one of those things about putting on the game face. No matter how frustrated or upset, you always have to stay cool, because if you're the consultant in the middle of a major issue, people are looking to you as the voice of reason, and if they see you getting really upset, they understand just how significant of a situation they're in. If you're cool, calm, and collected on the surface, even if you're really, nervous under the covers, it will help diffuse their nerves and their anxiety, and generally speaking, it results in a better outcome.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah. So there are a few requests for the Excel sheet.
I'll have that sent over along with the slides.
Great. And there are a few thank yous in the chat room. Let's see if there are any more questions. How hard is it to find a mentor in your specialty?
To find a mentor in the specialty is start reading blogs, start talking with folks, start learning more about the technical communities that you're in, and shoot out an email and just ask. Just say, hey, I'm looking to do this. Do you have a free minute every once in a while to help answer some questions? And the SQL Server community in general is one of the most friendly and open and caring communities that I've ever experienced. So don't be afraid to just reach out and ask, because these folks, me included, we're happy to help.
Mm-hmm. Great. Any other questions? Someone asked, he said, I know I'm smart and can do consulting, but how to take the first step as I'm a full-time employee for many years and overcome the fear of unknowns?
Well, the first step to me would be to sit down and talk with somebody who is a consultant for somebody else, or somebody that contracts for a living, and talk to them about, what did they do to get started and really get over that hurdle. It goes back to what's your level of risk and what's your definition of success. So talking with these folks to say, what do I need to get into this? They'll tell you, you need a recruiting agency, you need those skills, and just talk to them and just point blank ask them, based on what I do day to day, is this good enough to make me marketable as a consultant or a contractor? And just get an honest assessment there. And, always follow that with, if there's deficiencies there, what do I need to do to get there?
Mm-hmm. Okay, and two more questions. First one, how to talk to your boss about his or her shortcomings?
Oh, man, that's a loaded question. That all depends on your boss's personality. Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't take personal constructive criticism well, even if it is purely constructive. Mm-hmm. That's one of those areas you need to weigh that situationally with your boss and how you think they would respond to that. Some people are great with it, other people are not, and I've experienced both. And it's you got to be really delicate with that.
Yeah, and the last one, someone asked, what was your target goal for startup padding in months of expected gross income? Um, did you do the, net or gross based? Did you do it net or gross based?
It's a very, very good question. For us, my target goal was 6 to 8 months worth of financial padding gross. Now, we underestimated a little bit the legal cost of getting started because of the contracts and the nature of all of that, but we were lucky in that we had a number of customers rather quickly after getting started that contributed to really pushing out a lot of that padding, and then things got rolling, and then things were fine after that. But I would say, minimum 6 months, because it takes a little while to get started with those, and it takes time to build those business relationships with strategic alliances or community involvement, and getting people to know that they can call you for certain problems.
Great. So thanks a lot again, David. It was a very, very good presentation, and I would just like to remind everyone that next month we have Edwin talking about dealing with the myth of work-life balance, and we also have the coupon code for passing 2015. You can save $150, and have a great day, everyone. Thank you, and bye-bye.
Excellent. Thanks for attending, everybody. I appreciate it, and I'll see you all next month.
Thanks, David.
Thank you. Cool. And I'll email over the slides in the spreadsheet here shortly.
Cool.